You have $4 million. Your neighbor thinks you fix appliances for a living. Not because you told him that, because he saw you once, on a Saturday morning in November, carrying a toolbox to the side yard of a property 2 streets over. And he put together a story from what he saw. A working guy, handy, probably does okay. He is not entirely wrong. He is missing almost everything. And here is the part that would unsettle most people. You are not going to correct him. Not today, not ever. Because the version of you he carries in his head, the one with the toolbox and the muddy boots and the 10-year-old pickup truck, that version is doing exactly the work you need it to do. This is not a story about hiding. This is a story about architecture. It begins on a Wednesday afternoon in a storage facility parking lot in Gary, Indiana. You were not there for anything interesting. You have a unit there, 8 by 10, climate controlled, where you keep records for 2 small businesses you own. You are returning a dolly you borrowed from the front office. That is the entire errand. The facility manager, a woman named Carol who has worked there 11 years, is arguing quietly on the phone near the gate. When she hangs up, she says, mostly to herself, "Third unit this week. Owner's not going to be happy." You ask what she means. She explains. When tenants go 3 months without paying, the facility auctions the unit contents. But before that, the facility loses the rental income. And the owner, who lives 4 states away and calls once a quarter, loses it quietly, invisibly, in a way that never quite makes the news. You ask how many units the facility has. She says 412. You go home and do the math. A standard 10 by 10 storage unit in the Midwest rents for between $90 and $160 a month. 400 units at even a conservative 85% occupancy, which is below the national industry average of 92%, generates somewhere between $36,000 and $65,000 a month in gross revenue. The operating costs for self-storage are among the lowest of any real estate asset class. No toilets to fix, no kitchens to renovate, no tenants calling at midnight because the heat stopped working. Just concrete, roll-up doors, and a keypad. The net operating margin on a well-run self-storage facility sits between 35% and 45%. You write that on a piece of paper and stare at it for a while. You do not buy a storage facility first. You start smaller, deliberately, carefully smaller. 6 months earlier, before Carol and the parking lot and the math that wouldn't leave you alone, you had bought a coin-operated laundromat in a working-class neighborhood outside Akron. $43,000. The previous owner, a retired mail carrier named Eugene, had run it from a spiral notebook in a cash box he kept under the counter. The books were disorganized. The machines were old. The location was not interesting. That was the point. A small coin laundromat with 12 to 18 machines in a stable residential area generates between $60,000 and $180,000 a year in gross revenue, depending on location, hours, and machine quality. The ones that fail do not fail because people stop needing to wash clothes. They fail because the previous owner stopped paying attention to the machines, or let the lease terms drift, or never built systems. Eugene's laundromat had all 3 problems, which is why you paid $43,000 for something generating real cash flow. Year 1 after acquisition, net income $31,000. Not remarkable. You do not celebrate. You use it as proof of concept and as a down payment on the next one. Here is the financial logic most people miss. A business that generates $31,000 a year in net income, purchased for $43,000, is operating at a 72% annual return on invested capital. A broad market index fund has historically returned around 10% per year. The laundromat, bought right and operated competently, returns 7 times that in year 1. The second laundromat costs $61,000. The third comes from a county tax lien auction, a process held on Tuesday mornings in a government office building where almost no one else shows up, for $28,500. By the time you are standing in Carol's parking lot, doing laundromat math on the back of a storage facility invoice, you already understand the pattern. The assets that build quiet wealth are not the ones that get written about. They are the ones that solve a problem nobody finds interesting enough to photograph. 3 years after the laundromat, your accountant Ray sits across from you at a folding table in the back office of your second facility. Ray has done books for small business owners for 22 years. He has seen every variety of financial chaos. Restaurants kept on cocktail napkins, LLCs with 3 different EINs, a plumbing contractor who had not filed a return in 4 years. He does not startle easily. He reads through the folder you hand him without speaking. When he looks up, he says, "This is the most deliberately boring portfolio I have seen in 2 decades of doing this." I mean that as an observation, not a compliment. You tell him you take it as both. Here is what the folder contains. 3 coin laundromats across Ohio and Indiana. Combined gross revenue, $274,000 annually. Net after utilities, minor repairs, part-time staff, and lease obligations, $96,000. Recession-resistant by design. Laundromat revenue declined less than 3% during the 2008 financial crisis, while S&P 500 companies lost an average of 38% of their value. 2 self-storage facilities. One purchased through conventional financing at a 6.2% cap rate. The second acquired off-market through a motivated seller who needed to close in under 30 days. Speed and certainty, not price, is what most motivated sellers actually need. Combined net operating income, $118,000 annually. 4 highway billboard ground leases in Kentucky and Tennessee. You do not own the advertising, you own the land underneath it. Billboard operators sign ground leases ranging from 5 to 20 years with annual rent escalations built in. Your 4 leases generate between $900 and $1,600 per month each in ground rent, paid whether the billboard is filled or vacant. Combined annual income, $61,000. Your involvement, 0. And then there is the commercial pressure washing company. You bought it 18 months ago from a 64-year-old owner named Patrick, who had built it quietly over 26 years into something that ran mostly on contracts and reputation. 14 commercial accounts, office parks, a regional hospital system, 3 municipal facilities. Annual revenue, $890,000. Net margin thin, 11%. But contracted and predictable. The kind of business where clients renew because switching vendors is more inconvenient than staying. Ray closes the folder and asks if you are planning to move into anything with more growth potential. Multifamily housing, perhaps. Maybe a small industrial portfolio. You tell him no. He nods, the way people nod when they understand the answer but have not yet understood the reasoning. The reasoning is this. Every asset in that folder serves a need that does not negotiate with economic cycles. People store their belongings in good times and bad. Actually, storage demand increases during recessions as people downsize. People wash their clothes regardless of what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates. Commercial buildings require pressure washing whether the stock market is up or whether it is not. Highway drivers see the billboard without making a choice to look at it. There is no app disrupting the coin laundromat. There is no algorithm replacing the storage unit. These are not exciting assets. That is precisely why they are still available at prices that make sense. There is a man at a Chamber of Commerce event you attend once a year. You have seen his type. He is wearing a slim-fit shirt that costs somewhere around $280. You know because someone mentioned the brand once and you looked it up out of curiosity. He drives a leased luxury SUV. Current retail somewhere above $72,000. Monthly payment he probably describes as manageable. He talks about his investment portfolio the way certain people talk about their children, with pride, at length, in the direction of anyone who might be listening. When he asks what you do, you tell him you own a few small businesses, laundromats, some storage, a cleaning operation. You watch his face process this information and arrive at a conclusion. His face is polite. His attention is already elsewhere. Good. The moment someone categorizes you as unremarkable, they stop watching you. And the moment they stop watching, you can operate without friction, without unsolicited advice, without the specific social tax that visible wealth collects from everyone who knows you carry it. The average new vehicle transaction in the United States currently exceeds $48,000. The average monthly payment sits near $740. You drive a truck you paid cash for 4 years ago. Every month that payment does not exist is a month that money compounds inside a structure instead of depreciating in a parking lot. Your house has a paid-off mortgage. Your neighbors think you are comfortable. They are missing several zeros. You do not correct them. The version they carry is doing exactly the work you need it to do. Your closest friend since your mid-20s is named Calvin. Calvin has been building a small HVAC service company for 3 years. Good technicians, solid reputation in 2 counties, the kind of operation that grows through referrals because the work is done right the first time. He calls you on a Thursday in February, and there is something underneath the conversation you recognize before he names it. He needs $70,000. There is a commercial vehicle fleet he can acquire from a retiring competitor, 4 fully equipped vans that would let him take on the school district contract he has been pursuing for 2 years. The math is sound. The opportunity is real. You could send that money before the call ends. $70,000 against your current net position is approximately 9 days of passive income from the portfolio. It is not a decision financially. It is a rounding error. You do not send it. Not because you do not want Calvin to succeed, because you have watched what happens when capital arrives before the systems are ready to hold it. Cash flow mismanaged at a small scale becomes cash flow mismanaged at a large scale, just faster and more expensively. And when it goes wrong, and without the right foundation, it usually does, the money is gone and the friendship carries the weight of it forever. Instead, you drive to Calvin's shop on a Saturday morning with a notepad. You spend 4 hours going through his numbers with him. You find that his billing cycle runs 47 days on average. Industry standard is 30. Tightening that alone frees up meaningful working capital without external financing. You ask about the lease terms on his current shop space. He does not know the annual escalation clause. You find it in the paperwork together. You walk through what the school district contract actually requires in terms of liability coverage and bonding, costs he had not fully modeled. 3 Saturdays later, Calvin has renegotiated payment terms with 2 vendors, applied for an SBA 7A loan he qualifies for at a rate well below conventional financing, and structured the vehicle acquisition as a lease-to-own through the retiring competitor directly, preserving his cash position and building a seller relationship simultaneously. He closes the deal 6 weeks later. He tells you he could not have done it without you. You do not tell him what you could have written the check for. That is not modesty. That is an understanding of what the story needed to be. The email arrives on a Tuesday morning at 8:03 a.m. You are in the parking lot of your 3rd laundromat, waiting for a technician who is running late to service a washer that has been cycling short. You are drinking gas station coffee from a paper cup. The coffee is bad. You are not thinking about money. The subject line reads, Q3 Net Worth Summary, Final Reconciliation. It is from Ray. You open it the way you open all of Ray's emails, expecting nothing dramatic because Ray's emails are never dramatic. He formats them in the same clean template he has used for years. He does not use exclamation points. The number at the top of the summary stops you. You read it twice. Total verified net position, $4.1 million. You sit with that for a moment. Gas station coffee, a technician's van pulling into the lot, a washer running short cycles somewhere inside the building. You thought this moment would feel like something different. You had imagined it with ceremony attached, the right setting, the right person to tell, some shift in the air that acknowledged what had quietly accumulated over 8 years of Tuesday decisions. There is no shift. There is just the parking lot and the bad coffee and Ray's email and the same truck you drove here in that you will drive home in that needs nothing except what it has always needed. You reply to Ray. 3 words. Thanks. Looks right. You put the phone in your pocket. The technician is crossing the lot. There is a washer to fix. The laundromat opens at 7 and it is already past 8. And the machine running short is costing someone their Tuesday morning. You get out of the truck. 8 years ago, you netted $31,000 from a disorganized laundromat in Akron and used it as proof that the architecture worked. The feeling you have right now, sitting in a parking lot with bad coffee and Ray's email and a technician waiting on the other side of a windshield, is the same feeling. Exactly the same. Just with more zeros. That is not nothing. It might be everything. Because it means the feeling was never about the number. It was about the system. The quiet satisfaction of something running the way you built it to run, without an audience, without a ceremony, without anyone in this parking lot having any idea what just landed in your email. Somewhere this week, you are going to watch someone spend money to look like they have it, and you are going to notice something they cannot see yet. The performance of wealth and the architecture of it are almost never found in the same person at the same time. The ones who understand that are already in the parking lot. They are just not telling anyone why.